Hi, I'm Paris, and it's been 2 years now since I finished chemo, and you know what? I've got to apologize to chemo because I blamed it for everything, for all the side effects I was having. But for a little background, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, 2.5 years ago now, and the treatment plan I chose, which is a little bit unorthodox, was to have chemo first. And the chemo agent they gave me was docetaxel, also known as taxotere. I know that's a common one for breast cancer. And in the short term, I had the usual side effects with it. Most of my hair fell out. I had very severe dry mouth that caused me to need fillings at the dentist until I started treating that. I ended up immunosuppressed. My white blood cell count was way down, so that they had to give me a treatment to boost it back up so I wouldn't succumb to an infection. I had moderate anemia. I had joint pain. I had muscle pain. And as I mentioned, some of this turns out could be attributed to some of the other treatments that I had. That's a lot of what I experienced at the time. But now, 2 years removed from that, has everything recovered? No, but as I mentioned, it turns out I was blaming everything on the chemo at the time, but another treatment was actually causing part of it. Once the chemo finished, well, in the couple, 3 months after the chemo finished, everything improved, but none of them got back to normal. And it was only later when a mistake was made on a Lupron shot that I received. A Lupron keeps my testosterone down at 0. So this shot, something went wrong with it, and my testosterone got to come back up to normal for a brief period. The dry mouth went away, my red blood cell count was up, my energy was up, I had enough white blood cells finally, until they realized what was happening, gave me a Lupron shot, which knocked my testosterone back down to 0. Suddenly I'm anemic, immunocompromised, and dry mouth again. So some of that effect was coming from the Lupron, and I'm still experiencing that. So after 2 years, what side effects or long-term effects do I still have from the chemo treatment? Well, one thing that the chemo attacks in your body or breaks it down is collagen. And so I think that's related to why the hair falls out and your nails can get kind of weird looking. And in my case, I experienced the wrinkles I had got deeper. Where I didn't have wrinkles before, wrinkles appeared. And so with that, I would say that the chemo, it ages you physically in breaking down the collagen. I also had and still have where there's folds, like here in the elbow, in the back of the knee, the leg there, having a little bit of that cray paper type skin. Obviously it's not vital anymore and bouncing back. It doesn't have the collagen in there to do it. That got knocked out by the chemo, and I know you can take collagen supplements, but learning more about cancer treatments, reading lots of stuff at the time, I discovered that cancer uses collagen to build the framework of the tumors. So the signs of aging, and I would say the chemo aged me 10 or more years, physically, wrinkle-wise, and skin tone, I would say about 10 years. Now, of course, there's a psychological component, both of finding out you have cancer and going through the treatments like chemo that can psychologically and emotionally age you. And sometimes that also comes through, you know, the expression you wear on your face. You're sort of more, after an experience like that, you may have a sort of, I don't know, a darkness to your personality. In my case, I think it was more of a melancholy. But I think that comes through maybe even in just micro expressions that, you know, when you're not really paying attention to how your face looks, it's a resting chemo face, that that maybe it's a sadness that shows through in that. And so when you're engaged with someone, you're doing things, you're responding with your face, your personality shows through, but that overlay of maybe a sadness or a melancholy might show through, and that might be part of the aging as well that you see. That's not just the wrinkles. A few months after finishing chemo, my hair came back in, such as it is, but this is pretty much how it looked before. My nails, I don't know how to describe it, but they look less healthy ever since, and I think that's a collagen related thing as well. Just the grooves and little pits, and I don't know, I feel like my nails look older than my actual age. Looking back at chemo from this distance of 2 years, how bad would I say it was going through the treatment? It was bad, but it was not the most terrible thing. And in fact, and this is probably weird to say, I can't believe I'm saying it, if you told me now that I had to choose between right now doing another 4.5 months of chemo or right now going through 3 additional years of the Lupron, having no testosterone, and all the side effects that's causing me, I'd choose the chemo. But as I mentioned, the chemo was 2 years ago, so you forget the worst of things sometimes over time. The Lupron, though, is fresh in my mind because I just got my shot, it was just a week ago, and they called me today with my latest lab results, which were great. PSA is undetectable, so there's no sign of cancer. So as much as I'm disliking it, I'm suffering through it for the full 3 years, but every month that goes by on Lupron gets harder and harder. So the chemo side effects at the time you're going through it are miserable and intense, but within a year after finishing chemo, you should be back mostly how you were. There may be some long-term things like the gray paper skin. Maybe that wouldn't have happened if I'd taken the collagen supplements. I don't know, but that's not going to get better if after 2 years it still looks like this. And of course there's the rest of the wrinkles. But now people in fashion don't say this, but people who value wisdom say this, that your face tells the story of your life, and if you've been through suffering, it does show. So there's another story written in wrinkles here. Let's hope that I can add on to the laugh lines with some of those stories in the future, and I'll see you on the next review.
There are so many choices and you don't want to stress. You want your health food at home, receiving only the best. That's what we're here for, we give honest reviews. parristx.